Welcome back to another garden tour. We were talking about like, hey, it's a great idea to do a garden tour every 2 weeks. And then realistically, that was not even an option for us. You like farm noises, you're gonna love that our chickens are our next door neighbors today. They're gonna be like the backyard chatter as we go through. Okay, let's start with the octopus of the garden. And a lot of you messaged and said, Kelly, this is an absolute lie. You definitely can grow fruit in your first year of your strawberry plants and they will still do fine. And then some of you were like, good job, Kelly, for doing your research. You should definitely not eat the fruit. I'm kind of hybridizing the answers. So we're letting all of this grow. Early in the summer, probably May and June, it was like 70s. It was really mild here for a long time. So we didn't get a ton of fruit because we picked all the blossoms. Now that it's July, we've just let some of them go. And they're still producing, they're still getting roots in the runners, and it's very exciting. So I think next year, even over the winter, we'll just put a little hoop over this and protect it from the frost. So strawberries going strong, but tomatoes are suffering. So let's look at those. These have been delicious tomatoes, and this has been a really good producer. We've had a ton of rain this week, which is really, really weird for us in Texas. We would normally never have splitting tomatoes. A huge problem we've had with tomatoes in the past is a mildew on them, or they get blight, failure in the plant. But this year, it is a failure with pests. I mean, some of this splitting is from the rain, but I've had to take out 2 entire plants because these leaf-footed bugs just keep coming and laying their eggs in them, and then their larvae eat their way out of my tomatoes, and then they rot, and it's just a mess. And I'm so disappointed that we did not get the tomatoes we wanted. I wasn't on top of it enough. So something that we do have as an option, and we just need to get to it, and I think that's probably like everybody's repeating record is like, I just need to get to that. So something we have is DE, and we can just sprinkle it on the plant. But our problem is also right now, it just keeps raining. So sprinkling it on is just gonna be washed off truly within like hours, because we've had multiple rain showers every single day. Right now we've got 1, 2, 3 standing tomatoes, but let me show you the prettiest ones. Look how pretty these are. Aren't those gorgeous? And the Luffa are really taking off. This is a cool thing that I didn't know what it would do. I've heard a lot that Luffa are finicky, but these are growing, and I wonder if there's any we could really show off. So it takes a long, long time for the Luffa to then like produce the gourd, but eventually, if we get some good harvest off of this, we could like cut these up, and then they'll be like sponges. Like we could use this in the shower, we could use this in our dishes in the kitchen. These are gonna be like a really, really cool harvest. We just gotta get to the harvest part, and I think that takes a while. The beans were amazing, and we're actually just...
They tasted so good.
They tasted so good. We harvested them, we froze some of them, we've eaten some of them. So I feel like really good about how we're producing and then like actually using the garden. That's exciting versus the tomatoes when it's kind of like womp womp, like sad that you didn't get what you wanted out of it. But these are good, and you can see one of them has been totally ravaged, but it was on its way out anyways. We were just letting these, you know, dry up on the plant itself, and then I succession planted some ground cherries in between. These will go white. We've already gotten a few beans off of them, but they'll go white, and then we'll take the beans kind of like this. You see this side? So these are drying up. And then we'll take these beans and we can plant them next year because they're heirloom. You can't do that with all varieties, but if they're heirloom, you can plant the seeds again, which is very cool. And then you can succession plant. So these obviously won't stay here. We're gonna cut them out, leave the roots in because we don't want to disturb the soil. But in between each of these plants, I've put ground cherries, and those should be growing up in the next month. You'll also see some new hardware we've got going on in this bed that I will tell you about a little bit later, because I just think it's very exciting and kind of was one of those things when we first started a garden way back in Katy. We were like, one day we're gonna have this. And then we're gonna feel like we've arrived. So in another bed, the Comfrey is obviously doing well here. We just, oh my gosh, look at this gigantic grasshopper. Oh,
So,
can you catch it for a chicken?
I don't know where it is.
Do you see it over there?
Oh, well.
Is that its poop? Did you get it? You got it. Go get it. Hold on, I'm gonna follow you. Holy cow, look
That's
at its
a leg.
legs. Oh, that was quick.
I'm gonna cut in on Kelly's tour. I've always dreamt of turning grasshoppers into eggs.
This is the Comfrey. It's prolific, so it's doing really, really well. But we can multitask it. We give it to the rabbits. They make us new garden fertilizer, which is a great relationship. And then you can also use this as a good like chop and drop fertilizer. So you can just cut this off and then lay it like lasagna layers in your garden beds, and it's gonna fertilize the soil. So it's a multi-function. Okay, so this is a cool bed. We planted this Ruellia as like fodder for the rabbits. Remember we talked in a video about like planting things that can help you feed your livestock and cut down on your cost. So we planted this Ruellia years ago, 3 years ago. I think it was the first thing that we put in the ground. It comes back every year and the rabbits love it. It's from our friend at Cottontail Rabbitry in Houston. And she's where we've gotten all our Rex rabbits, and she's fantastic. Taught us all about planting fodder food for our rabbits. The same with this moringa. So this is like a superfood. You can buy it really expensively in powder form at Whole Foods. You can also grow it. Somehow this resilient little plant has survived even through our Texas freeze. I think that's the most exciting thing, when surprising stuff comes back after kind of a traumatic year. There's some more herbs in here, and we've got comfrey now still growing for the rabbits and then to chop and drop. And the loofah is doing exactly what I wanted it to do. So if you want things to grow up and over, I hear cucumbers will do it really well, and our sugar snap peas did it, and now the loofah's doing it, and it's so pretty that it's gonna be this sweet little like shade zone. I'm excited about that. Like, it's actually working, and that's kind of unbelievable to me. Herb garden is growing strong, and we've actually gotten to use it. Ollie comes out to get after this this chocolate mint plant, and we actually had to do a little course correcting because mint goes crazy, which is exciting for me, but it means that like this was already out and the runner was rooting into the ground, and that was kind of a problem for us because I want to be able to move this still and then do a more permanent kind of tea garden where this can have room to grow, but it's also, it smells so good, but it's also going to make sure that I don't have it taking over other things. No, but thank you. That's a good idea for sunglasses. Look, the lavender actually has a head on it, and that is crazy because this is the first time we've gotten a lavender head on any of our lavender. We have 3 plants, and this is the one that's doing it. I won't say it's like the ugly, but it's not necessarily the good, and that's our fig trees, guys. If you are a figgy person, tell us in the comments what to do with this, because we've looked up a lot about fertilizer. We've tried some different fertilizing things. We've thrown the comfrey down. We've put on some microlife, and we're just not seeing this fruit actually ripen here. It could be the age of the tree, but I'm really hoping that we can do some things to actually get fruit. There were dozens of figs all over these 2 trees. All of the fruit that's growing on the trees then eventually just like falls off. It's not big enough, it's not ripe enough, it's just falling off and creating mulch. So it's kind of a disappointment.
The mulch part.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the tree. I think we need to do something to help support it, like growing the fruit to fruition. Is that where fruition comes from? The plants look great. Like, there's tons of new growth. And it's so soft. The fig leaves are doing great. Like, it's growing, and all of this is growing. I mean, probably 3 times its size already since we got it, which is exciting. So that's really the only problematic thing, is figuring out what's going on with these figs and how can we help them grow the way they're supposed to grow. There's virtually no pests at all, so I think we're doing good keeping the tree healthy. We just need to get that like extra boost so that it actually produces fruit we eat. But the rest of the fodder trees are amazing. These have grown like 3 times their size. I kind of can't believe that it's doing it in containers. So I'm excited about that. Like, Find the things that don't work, yes, but don't stay there. I'm totally inspired by the way the garden is growing on its own. It's so much fun. This is a huge thing we've done since we last had a video, and there's probably 3 things that you didn't know we did. The first thing is we built an L-shaped bed. It mimics that other one. The first one that we had, which was like, all right, let's experiment with this and see how it goes. It's going really well. Things are growing well in it. We've done a bunch of layers of dirt and then had crazy rain, and so we've had to add more and more dirt into it. But these are passion flower vines, and we've had a couple of flowers on it. Things I didn't know about passion flower vines might be that they get a flower for like a day and then they're done. So I kind of expected it to be a little bit more exciting. However, new growth makes me excited, and it does have new growth. The things we're growing in the bed is exciting. So passion flower vines. Then we have peppers. This one has gotten to be a really strong pepper plant. It just hasn't produced yet, but I'm not really worried because it was kind of later in the game that we planted that one. Like, I'm all for planting it at any time in the game you can get in. Then cucumbers, and we actually have some that are growing. So here's a cool one. There's ground cherries in through here as well, and I think I've got okra in here also. This bed is in transition. The zucchini kind of did its thing, and now it's done. So we've got a couple other things planted in succession here, and the peppers are doing really well. And I've got, again, more herbs in here, so basil, lemon balm, and dill in here. I got 2 biggest wins for you, and I think you're gonna like them both. First biggest win is this watermelon patch. I didn't see that coming. I did not see that it would be like the Rapunzel of the garden. So we've got an octopus of the garden. This is the Rapunzel of the garden. It just keeps growing, and the fruit is looking really, really good. There are 3 just like this, and here's how you know when your watermelon is ready. So we know our watermelon is not ready yet, and it's because the bottom is still white. That's gonna go yellow, and then these tendrils are gonna go brown. And once this kind of shrivels up and goes brown, the sugar content in this is like ready. We're gonna have less of a rind, more of a red fruit, and I think these are all seedless, maybe? Couldn't tell you. I'll tell you when we get into them. But there are 3 of them, and they're enormous. But then I've seen throughout the plant that there are several small ones that are growing as well. So that's kind of how the watermelon vine goes. You'll get some fruit, and then it'll keep producing throughout the season. Over here was like our dream of tomato fields. It was going to be all of these rows of tomatoes and some onions and some other things kind of mixed in, and like 0 of it worked, but a couple of things have survived. So we've got 2 tomato plants that are doing their own thing. And then we just planted in ground cherries and okra over here. And I think a couple other tomatoes. And then this like 1 lone carrot that we're all afraid to pull, because what if it's not a carrot? And then we'll just feel sad. I have one thing I'm very not disappointed about. It's the second to last thing I want to show you, so hang with me here. Because I did not think that these were going to live. We have a row, an entire row of banana plants. It's the middle of July, and these are thriving. And it's because we've had so much rain this summer. So these are transplants from Bo's parents. They live like in the Houston area, and we've killed at least half a dozen of these in the past. But for some reason, God's taught us just enough to keep these alive and dependent. And these are still growing. So we've got new growth over here. This is like this shoot just came up on its own. We didn't plant this shoot. So it came off of this one. And here's the thing, you might get banana plants and then like regret it. But I'm hoping we don't regret this, because what it could do is help us protect this side of the garden from the afternoon sun. This is very exciting for me because this is something I've wanted to do since we lived in Katy. So like over 5 years, I've had this idea and desire to do a garden this way. We've got this huge rainwater harvesting system, like 5,000 gallons of water, but it's on the other side of the house. So we have a pump that we took water from that and put it into this slim tank here right by the garden. Then gravity fed into this drip irrigation system, we have fresh, free rainwater into our garden. And I think we're gonna see like some really surprising results at how well the plants do getting this rainwater versus the other side of the garden where it's still getting like city municipal water. So it's kind of like an experiment in our front yard that I kind of feel like this is gonna be the winner, but we just have to see. That was a lot to show you, like probably more than I thought there was when we got started, and just even walking through it today, we're always maintaining it. Like every day we're coming out here and sowing something or trimming something and being the medicine to the problem in the garden. But I don't usually walk through the whole thing explaining it, and today makes me really want to commit to coming back every month, especially throughout these summer months, and showing you what we're doing, the lessons that we're learning that are hard, like all the pests, and then not forgetting to celebrate what's successful. That's really important to me, is that there are gonna be things that really stink in your garden and in your life. But when you also look at what's going well, you don't lose sight of what's really good. Okay, if you liked this garden tour, then make sure you check out what happened last time in our very first ever garden tour. And even beyond that, if you think this is kind of cool, what we're doing on this whole homestead, then make sure you check out our playlist from like day one to where we are now, almost 3 years later.